Hi, this is Scott with eTrailer. Today we're taking a look at and installing the Demco Air Force One braking system for 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Our Demco Air Force One braking system is going to be an air setup where it's going to allow our air brakes from our RV to transfer into the front of our Jeep and then go through to its main control module and then operate a cylinder that is on our pedal. This one is really easy to set up on your vehicle side because you won't have to get under your RV to get anything set up under there. So this is really the way to go if you're looking to get set up with air brakes on your Jeep. Your Air Force One braking system is going to come with a breakaway switch, and this is going to be here just in case there's any kind of disconnection between your RV and your Jeep. So it's kind of a safety device. So if there was ever a disconnection, what would happen is this little switch would pop out and activate the brakes on your Jeep, bringing it to a safe stop. Now we're up in our RV and we're going to let our air brakes air up. But while we're up here, we're going to show you our monitor. And what this is going to do for us is it's going to show us that our brakes are working back in our Jeep. So it's going to give us a little bit of security knowing how they work. Now, once I hit my brakes up here, it's going to show that it's going to activate my sensor on my pedal to show that that's actually working. So that's really nice. So that way you can kind of monitor things without having to look in your camera or in a mirror. Now I'm going to step on the brakes and show you that it's working. A lot of people ask what components they're going to need to get set up to flat tow, and those 5 components are going to be a base plate, you're going to need a tow bar, you're going to need safety cables, some type of braking system, and you're also going to need tow bar wiring. Another thing we recommend is getting set up with a charge line setup like we have here today. And what this is going to do for us is give us charge from our RV to our vehicle battery, which will keep us charged while we're going down the road. If you have any questions or comments about this braking system for your Jeep Grand Cherokee, you can always leave a question or comment down below in the comment section, or you can get a hold of one of our experts here at eTrailer. They'd be glad to help you out. Now, as far as installation, it can be a little tricky to do, but it's not too bad. There is a little bit of wiring to it and running some lines, but it's definitely something you can get done yourself. But if it's something you don't have time or the space to do it yourself, you can always take a look at our dealer locator and get something done for you locally. If it's something you feel like tackling yourself, stick around, watch our video, and we'll help you get it installed. To start our installation, one of the first things you're going to want to do is figure out where you want to put the main unit. And what I did is I mounted it up underneath and I used some self-tapping screws and got that screwed into the aluminum here. With it where it's at, it's solid, it's not going to go anywhere. It's held on by these 2 screws, and then it also sits on top of this plastic that comes across the front. The lip of that sits on top of that, so it's in there really solid. One of the things we did with our setup is we ended up plugging off our vacuum port on the one side, and then we ended up plugging the exhaust port because ours has electric brakes. We don't have vacuum brakes on ours at all, so we ended up getting those plugged off. So now you can see here it's going to be labeled air in and then air out. So what we have is we have our air coming in from the front of our vehicle, and I routed that up to our air fitting that we have mounted to the front, and this line here, air out, is run up, and that will go up and through the firewall into our cylinder on our brake pedal. Now we're going to have 2 wires that come off of this box as well. One of them is going to go over and hook up to our black wire that runs to our breakaway switch. Our other wire is going to go over and hook up to a ground. You want to make sure that you have a good ground for that. And that will get everything set up underneath for our control unit. Now, when we get our line up here in the front, what we want to do is make sure that we have a nice, clean, even cut. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take our line and we'll push that in, and then we'll have it come to a stop, give it a good little pull, and make sure we have a good connection. We have our orange wire that comes off the back of our breakaway switch. That's going to run up to power towards our battery, and I just ran an extension off of that because I was a little short getting this all the way up there, so I just have a black wire running up for power. The black wire that comes out of the back of our breakaway switch goes down to our box, and our box is going to have 2 black wires that come out of it. Now, it doesn't matter which wire you hook that black wire out of your breakaway switch to. Either one will work. Just make sure you get the other one ran over to ground. Now, for our air line that comes up out of our box, that goes to our pedal, we have that run up, kind of up behind where our headlights are, and it comes up. We run it back over, and right here, you're gonna have a little bit of foam insulation stuff. We ran that through that, and then we ended up in this little pocket back here where we have our hinge for our hood. Now we have our line that runs through here. You can see that I have this covered up, and what I'm gonna end up doing is tying it off away from our hinge. But what I ended up doing is having to drill a hole over here in our firewall to get access to go in. So when I did that, I took my line and I also brought a white wire and a red wire in. Those were extra wires I had laying around because I wanted to get ground out from the inside out, and then I also wanted an extension for power, so I ran a red wire in for that. So all I did is just ran everything in with that line into that hole. As you can see here, I have that red wire I was talking about, and this is just basically going to be an extension that's going to help me get over to power. And then I have my white wire, which I ran down to ground, where I have a common ground down here on the front fender. Now, after we get everything done, I'll go ahead and get that all sealed up. Now you can see we have our cylinder mounted in place. I did have to change out the long screws on it, so I did have to take it apart and switch over to the long screws. The other ones that were on there from the factory were a little bit too short, so I did have to go with the longer on that. Now this is going to have a built-in reed switch, so what that's going to mean is that's going to be able to give us our brake switch signal just right out of our unit here. As you can see, we have our line plugged into that, and that's where we are routed from through the firewall. And when I mounted this up, I left a little bit of room so I can adjust it forward and back so I can deal with my cable tension here. Now, when I did this, I kind of mocked it up and then got an idea of where my target was going to be on my floorboard. And I did have to cut away a bunch of the rubber matting that's behind there to get to bare metal. And then I ended up getting to mount my plate. And if we pull that carpet back a little bit, you can see we have our plate mounted with our 3 screws, and then we also have our cable attachment point set up. And you'll be able to adjust your cable from there. You just want to make sure that you leave a little bit of play in your cables so it's not too tight, the one that runs up to your cylinder. Now inside of our vehicle, we're going to have our wireless coach link, and what this is going to do for us, this is going to give us a signal from our vehicle to our RV that our brakes are functioning when our cylinder is pulling down the brakes. So coming out of there, we have our wire that comes off of this, and this is what we call our reed switch wire. And our blue wire that we have out of there is running to this white wire. This white wire is what we have running out for a ground. So we just ran that out so we can get a good ground outside of our vehicle. Our brown wire that comes out of our cylinder comes over and then runs to the white wire that goes to our wireless coach link. That is going to give us our brake signal. Now our other wire that comes out of our wireless coach link is our red wire, and we have that running up and out and through our firewall, and we'll run an extension out there and get that over to power. Now right behind this panel, I went ahead and put some double stick tape on my transmitter and ended up getting that to stick right back here. Now I'll just come back through and tuck away and hide all my wiring. Now as you can see, we have all of our wires tucked away and hidden and tied up really nice, and I think it turned out really clean. Now we ended up running an extension off of our red wire. As you can see here, I used a heat shrink butt connector and got that all sealed up. I ended up popping out these top pins here, and I ran my wire back behind that, and I'll end up getting this all tied up back in here. But after I did that, I came over here out with my extension. Now I have my wire that's coming up from the front that comes off of my breakaway switch. Now we're going to utilize both of these, so we're just going to get this cut back a little bit. Cut some of that off. Now what I want to do is I'm going to have my fuse holder. So I'm going to get that cut back. I'm going to strip off both ends of that. Now I'm going to take one end, I'm going to put a heat shrink butt connector on that and get that crimped in place. Now on my other end, and strip that off. We'll run a ring terminal, crimp that in place. Now we have our power wire that we run from underneath off of our breakaway switch. Now we're going to strip both these back. You want to go a little bit longer when you strip these off. Now these two wires, we just want to twist these together. Now we'll take our yellow heat shrink butt connector. Now we'll get that crimped in place. Now here we have our power terminal. What we'll end up doing is undoing this and we'll get our cover out of the way. But first what I want to do is I want to get this shrunk down and give this sealed up with my heat source. Now I'll take a 13mm socket and break loose our power point. Now I'll just put on my ring terminal and reinstall our nut and tighten that down. Now we can reinstall our cover. And open up our fuse holder and insert our 10 amp fuse. Now I'll come back through and tidy up all my wiring, and that'll do it for our installation of our Demco Air Force One braking system on our 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. I'm Scott with eTrailer, and thanks for watching.